Hey guys, Dev here. This isn't a scripted video, this is me just sort of talking off the cuff, so it's probably going to be rambly and kind of all over the place. In front of me right now, I have a list of topics I'd like to hit in this video, so hopefully I'll be able to stay on track. And because this one's long, and you guys are likely only going to care about certain topics, on screen is a table of contents, so you can quickly jump around to whichever part of the video you like to watch. Of course, I recommend you watch it all, but I also understand the reality that some people just aren't going to be interested in some of this stuff. I'll also provide a TLDR right now for those of you who just don't want to watch the whole thing. Basically, because of our past experiences with this channel, and because of how we've all grown in the 6 years since we've started it, we've all sort of developed a real passion for being online content creators. And this is compounded by the fact that Gamergate actually gave us our first real taste at having an audience. You know, our videos routinely get around 100 hits. Meanwhile, the Gamergate stuff gets thousands or tens of thousands. Or even the initial upload of the Bigger Fish to Fry video got over 100,000 before we had to temporarily disable it. And though it probably goes without saying, we kind of like that. And we ultimately want to try and make this channel into a real thing for two reasons. And the first one is, of course, a selfish one. To be frank, we enjoy the attention, we enjoy the hits, we like the fact that we can make money off of this, and of course we feed the money back into the show, but we're still getting money. Like, that's phenomenal. We come from an era of the internet where there was no way you would ever make money online. But the second reason, we feel like we have something that is unique and valuable to offer to the community. We like the fact that because of our investigations, and because of our digging, and honestly because of our willingness to provide corrections when we screw up, that our name, even though we don't get too many hits, has also kind of become synonymous with somebody who is ethical. And we would sort of like to expand that ethicality, in a sense. And that doesn't mean that we're going to stop doing Gamergate videos. We'll probably keep doing them until Gamergate eventually fizzles out in the years to come. And then we'll probably still be doing like-minded videos later anyway. What I mean is, like, just assume hypothetically our channel in the future has 100,000 subscribers, and we're getting enough in revenue and through Patreon and whatever to be able to go out and pick up a new game on release and do a video on it or do a short series on it. What I would like to see, and what I think the community honestly kind of needs, is for people to think, oh wow, there's a new game coming out. I wonder what it's like. I wonder if it's any good. I can't really trust the reviewers because they may or may not be paid off. But you know what I could do? I could go online and see if SFO's done a video on it. We kind of want people to have that reaction to us, to have that idea about us. We want to provide that service of being known for ethics to the point that you can come to us with a game and ask us what we think of it, and we'll tell you. And you can rest assured in the knowledge that we're not pushing an agenda. So the ethics that we've brought to Gamergate, we also want to bring to our other videos, to our other series, to other projects. And we also want to bring those ethics to gaming in general. You know, maybe it's kind of a pipe dream, or it's kind of pie in the sky or something. But if this channel became big enough and sustainable enough that we could actually go out and do videos on AAA releases, then I ultimately think it would be a net boon for both of us, for both us here at the channel and for everyone who watches, and for any kind of future fans or anything. Okay, this TLDR is getting way too long. Basically, the point is, we would like to grow the channel specifically because we also want to grow that seed of ethical influence that we have. And those values that we exemplify in Indefensible, we'd also like to bring it to first looks at games. We basically want to become the channel that people think of when they don't really know what to think about a game and they want a truthful, direct opinion on it. Because I can promise you, we're never gonna just, like, take a paycheck and tell you a game is good. That's never what we would do, no matter how big we get. I guess a good way to put it is that we ultimately want to be the game reviewers that Gamergate thinks the industry should have. And to be blunt about it, we can't do that unless we're a lot bigger. So that's our goal, is to grow. Now, as for the experiences I talked about, and as for the specific examples, and as for specific plans for the future, well, That's why this is part of the TLDR. That's going to be the meat of the video. So for those of you who don't know, the Short Fat Otaku channel started up in 2009. We posted our first video, which was an anime review of the anime Chobits. And it actually very quickly got about 250,000 hits. Now, at this time in YouTube's history, you couldn't monetize without permission from YouTube, so we got no money from those 250,000 hits. And the copyright system was very different. You couldn't appeal. If you had a copyright problem with your video, it was just gone. And then you had 6 months of restricted access to uploading. You could still upload, but you couldn't upload past 10 minutes. You couldn't monetize videos. You had to wait 6 months for the copyright strike to go off. And there was no appeals process. So we first upload this Chobits review, and it goes gangbusters, and then it's axed after like 3 weeks, which sucked. But that was in August of 2009, and the show was actually conceived of in 2008. Around this time, YouTube was actually kind of on the decline. Blip TV was rising up due to people like, that guy with the glasses, and the Spoony one, and AVGN all jumping ship. This was sort of the height of the internet reviewer. And in 2008, there were tons of video game reviewers, but almost no anime reviewers. So I wasn't involved at this point. I know Dave, who's the other guy on the channel with me, he wanted to do a show, and Cam also wanted to do a show, and they basically got together, and they're like, let's do this show, and then they didn't do it for a year because they're lazy. They sat on the idea of SFO for a full year because at that point in time, I wasn't involved, but all three of us were just really lazy people. Like I was working a dead-end job I didn't like at the city. Dave was working a dead-end job he didn't like at a hardware store. And Camera was finishing up her bachelor's degree, and she didn't really know what she wanted to do with it. So the three of us were all just sort of syphilis. And we had really no passion, no drive. We were just kind of, let's basically live for the weekend type of people. That first video came out, and I remember I was still obviously like their friends and stuff, so I went and watched the video, and it was impressive how many hits it got in such a short amount of time. And the two of them really seemed like rejuvenated almost when they made that video. The first season of Short Fat Otaku consists of 13 anime reviews, and the channel was initially conceived as an anime review channel. We were going to make internet reviews, honestly, in the same That Guy with the Glasses stocks. That's what was big at the time. But we wanted to do it for anime instead of video games because in 2008 there were no anime reviewers. Of course, they sat on the idea for a year, so by the time August 2009 rolled around, there were many anime reviewers. But oh well. I showed up first in the 3rd episode, the Great Teacher Onizuka review, as the guy who's dragging Dave out of the school building. And then about halfway through the season, I actually fully jumped on board with the show. Like, I started helping behind the scenes, and I started showing up on camera a little bit more, just stuff like that. So at that point, halfway through the first season of SFO, it became the three of us, and it's been consistently the three of us since then. Of course, because Dave was still living out of his parents' basement working that dead-end job, and I was still living out of my parents' basement working that dead-end job, we basically recorded season 1 of SFO out of Dave's basement. Dave's parents would often go away for full weekends, pretty much every weekend throughout the summer. And Camera Lady was only in town for the summer anyway because she was basically a migrant worker. She spent the school year at university, and then she would come to our hometown to work for the summer. So every time Dave's parents would take off, because Dave's parents didn't really like him doing this to their house, we would rearrange the furniture in his basement, take down all the paintings and all the photos, and put up the anime review stuff. Basically put together the set. And then we would record a whole bunch of stuff, and then we would take it all down in time for his parents to get back. This led to filming a lot of reviews out of order. This led to kind of patchworking things together, because we really only had a limited amount of time, right? And actually, we had finished all of the reviews in season 1 but 2 before Dave decided to move out and go back to school. And Camera Lady was not the amazingly fast editor she is today, so it took her a very long time to get each review out. So what ended up happening was basically halfway through the airing of season 1 of SFO, Dave had already moved out to go to school, and we were already shooting season 2 of SFO. It was that backed up. And we realized we have to go back to Dave's parents' place. You have to go back to our hometown and film those final reviews that we missed, because we only filmed like half the review. So what ended up happening was Dave and I found a weekend in which we knew his parents weren't going to be there. We hopped on a Greyhound bus, we went back to our hometown, and we basically just recorded for about 8 hours straight. And we had to like put everything back just the way it was and clean it all up so his parents never knew. It was actually sort of fun. Season 2 of Short Power Otaku was recorded at the place he was living in while he was going to college. And he was getting a degree in social work at the time. Camera would occasionally travel to go record things with him. I would travel to go record things with him. But the three of us were all in different cities at this point in our lives. This was also around the same time that we applied to That Guy with the Glasses. Now, I know what everyone has to say about That Guy with the Glasses. And what you're saying about it now in 2015, it was honestly still applicable back in 2010, you know? I recall when Camera Lady said, we should apply for That Guy with the Glasses, I recall being like, yeah, we should, because we'll get a lot of hits. But man, a lot of the people there aren't very good. And I mean, no offense to anybody, but like, I don't know, I just never thought that the cheesy Shatner overacting in a review thing was all that endearing, even back when it was kind of novel, you know? At the time, the only person that any of us really liked on That Guy with the Glasses was the Spoony one. And Spoony was the reason that we started doing reviews in the first place. He was the primary inspiration for SFO. You know, like, we had watched AVGN and that was funny, but it was like Spoony's Final Fantasy VIII. We were like, we should get into this, you know? I think if you're a creative person and you're watching somebody else's creative works, you can only do that for so long without at least trying it yourself, you know? And Spoony was kind of the straw that broke that camel's back. We were like, we should try YouTube because of Spoony. So we applied to That Guy with the Glasses, and we did get a reply from Rob Walker. He rejected us not due to any kind of quality issue with our show, but because they weren't taking on anime reviewers at the time. They had Ben at the Stage, they had Mars Girl, they had Jesu Otaku, and I think at that point the Aussie was just leaving, so they were like, we don't want any more anime stuff. Anime's sort of niche compared to gaming. We don't want anime people. And we said, well, that's fine. We kind of get it. There were other people who applied at the same time who had significantly worse shows than us, which did kind of make us feel good. Like, we weren't on the bottom of the barrel. We just weren't what they wanted at the time. So we kept doing the show, and we honestly had a lot of fun with it in Season 2. Season 2 was kind of the season where we got a bit more abusive with Dave. You know, he did a few more things that, you know, he screamed about and didn't like, but it was funny later. Same with me. I jumped off a roof dressed as Santa Claus during Season 2. At this point in time, Blip TV was also really on the rise. We got in early with Blip TV, which was lucky. There was a point in time in Blip TV's history where they stopped taking just everybody. I think that was just before Maker bought them. And they started, like, you have to be judged to start a new show on Blip, because they wanted quality stuff. And they also started cutting people as well. They started cutting out people who just didn't make the mark. And at this point in time, Blip TV was actually making more money than YouTube. You know, like, I know YouTube's the top dog now in terms of people making ad revenue and stuff, but Blip TV back in 2010 was where it's at. You know, like, we would pull in maybe $100 a month back on Blip TV and make nothing on YouTube. That's why, you know, if you go back to those early days of That Guy with the Glasses and everybody else, everyone was on Blip because that's where the money was. And Blip TV started to axe people. I don't know if you guys remember this, but after Maker Studios took over, they started every 6 months or so, started doing big rounds of axing of shows. Everyone called it the Blip-ocalypse. And what was really important about that, or at least really validating in terms of my own personal ego, I don't know how the other two feel about it, but I know that this made me laugh inside. People who were accepted into That Guy with the Glasses were getting axed left and right, while our show was given a free pro account on Blip TV. So clearly, they thought that some of the That Guy with the Glasses contributors were not as good as us. At the same time, we really had no place to showcase our Blip TV videos because the Blip portal was more used then than it is now, because now Blip's dead. but it still wasn't used all that much in comparison to YouTube's portal. And we did kind of need a site to embed this stuff on. And that's when Dave and Camera Lady both said we should join up. If that guy with the glasses won't take us, we'll go to a different site. And they ultimately chose Reviewtopia. Now, any of you who, read Encyclopedia Dramatica or were on the busy street back in the day, or really just keep up with the internet, you know what Reviewtopia is. You know what it was. And we sort of had an idea of what it was too at the time. But basically we just, we needed a place to embed the videos. That was basically it. And they were offering it. So around the time that we had joined up with Reviewtopia, we also were planning to go to Con Bravo. I think this was 2011 at this point. And Con Bravo is a Canadian convention. And Spoony was going to be there. And Spoony being the guy that really inspired us. And at this point, Camera and him had actually been emailing each other back and forth a little bit every once in a while. Just about like how to make a show and just general discussions and chatting. He seemed to be a lot more personable back then. We decided to approach him and said, hey, do you want to do a crossover? Because you got us into this. We're going to be at the same con. He was publicly posting on Twitter about a lot of problems he was having with writing a review for Tekken the Motion Picture. And Camera Lady thought that she could help him with that. So he agreed. And they wrote the script. So we all agreed to meet up at Con Bravo and shoot the review. And then it turns out that Spoony got word from higher up at That Guy with the Glasses that he could no longer cross over with people who weren't on That Guy with the Glasses. He did it with Pat the NES Punk, and he got in shit with Mike Michaud and Rob Walker. They gave him shit for doing that, and they gave him shit for showing up at the Screw Attack convention that year as well. So he came to us, he said, I know we had planned it and we wrote the script, but I'm sorry, I got to call it off. And I think that was sort of the beginnings of when Spoony really started to have a lot of discontentment with That Guy with the Glasses. He obviously wasn't going to bail out over us. That's stupid to expect that. But that was the first time in which That Guy with the Glasses was putting their foot down on Spoony, so to speak. And he didn't like that. And, it would later culminate over the years with him making these jokes and, the whole thing with Lupa and eventually getting kicked off and him quitting. It would all build up over time. But this event with us was sort of the seed of that. So ultimately, Camera Lady just gave him the script and said, here, you go and do a review of it on your own. Just take the script, rework it as you like. It's okay, we understand. And he gave us a writing credit on his review of Tekken the Motion Picture. And since then, I know Camera's tried to keep in contact with him, but we all know that Spoony has, no offense to the guy that he used to be, because he used to be really, really cool, but he's really changed, and he's not the guy he used to be. He was really cool. He was cool to talk to. He had a lot of passion for his show and his fan base, and something along the way killed that, I think. So we kept on going with Season 2 of SFO. Reviewtopia they didn't demand it, but they, they politely suggested that their contributors give them a timed exclusivity. So we would post to Blip TV and then wait some time before posting to YouTube. And honestly, this was probably our biggest mistake yet when it comes to our channel. All of Season 1 of SFO got at least some hits, the big one was Chobits. Doing FLCL was pretty big. Doing Great Teacher Onizuka was pretty big. That video's still up actually on our channel and still has, I think, 75,000 or something when you put all the parts together. So that first season on YouTube gave us traction, We got, I think, 1,000 subscribers pretty quickly, our first 1,000. And then when Reviewtopia wanted the Blip TV exclusivity deal, that pretty much killed our YouTube momentum. And we would eventually start uploading the old reviews on our YouTube channel, but it had been months and months and months since any updates went to that channel at this point, and they were not getting the hits, when you leave a channel sit for 6 months or sit for a year and you don't post anything on it, whatever fan base you had is long gone. And here's the thing, this is what caused, I think, the downfall of Reviewtopia, and is now causing the downfall of That Guy with the Glasses. During Blip TV's height, everyone was using it and getting paid, and it was great. That was the birth of the YouTube multi-channel networks. That is when, you know, TGS and TGN and Machinima were all kind of coming into being. And with their support, people posting on YouTube could actually make money again. Their existence is actually what started to make YouTube viable again as a money-making alternative to Blip TV. All these channels, all these sites were banking on Blip just at the time as the YouTube boom was really beginning. And the fact that we gave Reviewtopia that exclusivity right at the start of the YouTube boom was our biggest mistake. We missed out on a lot. We missed out on a lot of growth, on a lot of money, on a lot of everything, basically. The end of Reviewtopia for us coincided with the birth of No Talent Gaming and the start of the 3rd season of SFO. We made a lot of good friends while on Reviewtopia. A lot of cool shows. Just all around great people to hang out with and talk to and everything like that. But slowly, as it became obvious to us that Reviewtopia's management was, no offense to them, incompetent, they're good people, but they're not good people to run a site. Slowly, people started to bleed away from it. They started to go to other sites, do other things. And this was fueled by Reviewtopia's, well, one, its stupid name. I mean, if you talk about shoehorning yourself. 2, their insistence on being exactly a That Guy with the Glasses clone. For example, I recall a time in which Camera Lady found a really cool reviewer. His name was Broken Pixels. His name is Broken Pixels, actually. He just still does reviews, and he's on Machinima. He's big time on Machinima now, I think. And he rapped reviews about new games. They were really good. And Reviewtopia refused to pick them up because he was not a by-the-books, That Guy with the Glasses clone reviewer. You know, there are many instances like this that I can think of where Reviewtopia would refuse somebody who was obviously talented because they did not fit the mold. And for those of you who just don't know, I'll just tell you directly. I'm not going to dwell too much on it because I know that the people involved don't like it coming up. Reviewtopia basically died when one of the contributors, Enigma, was doing a stream in a magfest, and he advertised the stream by saying that there were girls taking off their tops or something. And there is another event related to this that I'm not going to get into because the people involved don't really like it being talked about anymore. But basically everyone got real offended by Enigma advertising this. And some pointed out that it was actually against Twitch's terms of service to have a topless person on the stream, which it is. And basically everyone just took off. And here's the thing. I don't think anyone actually really cared. I think a few people did. I think like Diamanda Hagen did because she's a social justice warrior. And she's like, oh no, you're objectifying women by saying that there's a topless woman here. And okay, fair enough. I think what happened was just people were so dissatisfied with Reviewtopia, and so many of their friends had already left the site, that basically, as soon as people started to go, it just opened the floodgates, you know? Like, and I know this was the case with us. None of us here at SFO really cared what happened on that stream. We did not care. It was not related to us at all. However, we looked at the Reviewtopia roster. We saw that everyone we liked, all the friends we had met, were leaving. And we also were very dissatisfied with the way the site had been run. So we just said, fuck it, let's go. And we went. It's at this point in time, around the end of Reviewtopia, that we started up No Talent Gaming. Under a different name, but still the same thing. No Talent Gaming was basically us playing video games. And this was just before Game Grumps, I think. You know, like, the idea of a daily Let's Play channel was not yet a big thing. We decided to do, like, once a week uploads of Tales of Vesperia and Pokemon Fire Red Nuzlocke. We chose those games because they were anime related and we were still an anime channel. An exclusively anime channel at the time. And we chose once a week because one of our other YouTube friends, Black Light Attack, his massively popular Pokemon Leaf Green Nuzlocke was a once a week thing. All of his popular series were once a week. And we said, you know, that's probably pretty good on the editing schedule. It's probably pretty good on the attention span schedule. So let's do some once a week stuff instead of rather like once a month like the reviews were. So we still put out anime reviews, like the tail end of Season 2 was still coming out at this time, and also the beginning of Season 3. We were still putting out the anime reviews around once a month. Maybe a little bit more, maybe one review every month and a half. But at the same time, we were also doing once a week videos of Tales of Vesperia and Pokemon Fire Red. And we actually did take more inspiration from Black Light Attack, because many of you guys might not know this, but Black Light Attack was the guy who first did a Let's Play of a Nuzlocke. Up until that point, Nuzlocks were like comics on the video games board and 4chan. They were stories told on forums. They were not yet Let's Plays. He did the first. And secondly, he was the guy who also popularized overlays on Let's Plays on YouTube. Let's Plays on YouTube, up until him, just showed the game. His Leaf Green had a very crude looking overlay, to be sure, but it was an overlay. It had like what Pokemon had died, what did he catch on this route, who was in his party. All this information that you wouldn't get just by simply watching the game at any given moment, he had on screen, and he was the first guy to do it. So Black Light Attack started those two trends, and we actually became friends with him. And we started doing those as well in our videos, the overlays and stuff. However, we went one step further. We put ourselves on screen, not just with a face cam, but with an entire couch and a green screen. Now I have to admit, we took this format from a TGS show called The Iron Gamer. TGS was a YouTube MCN. It later became Polaris, which is owned by Maker Studios. But in the start, they were known as TGS. And there was a show they ran called The Iron Gamer. And The Iron Gamer was basically, they got people in their network to show up at a studio, sit on a couch, and play a game. And it was actually pretty good. They didn't have a green screen on it, which is something that we added. And they actually kind of had some star power. Dodger and JonTron were on it regularly, among other names on their network. And when we started up our own video game stuff, The Iron Gamer as a show was pretty much defunct. They hadn't made any more for some time. JonTron had moved on to Game Grumps. Dodger had moved on to her own thing. And we looked at The Iron Gamer and we said, well, they're not doing anything with it anymore. And we think we can do something special with it. So why don't we just sort of take their format and try to improve upon it? And that's basically how No Talent Gaming was born. We started Season 3 of SFO primarily because Alan, another guy on our channel who shows up pretty regularly in the video game stuff, he had broken up with his girlfriend. And he basically just needed a roommate. And Dave was like, well, I want to get out of this shitty house that I went to college in and actually move into a decent place. So I'm going to move in with Alan. And so Dave moves in, which requires a massive scene change in terms of the show. He's now in a different room with a different environment, different outsides, the whole bit. So we said, you know what? We'll film a finale. We'll make it a new season. And that was the birth of Season 3 of SFO Anime Reviews. Now, after Dave moved in with Alan, Alan got back with his ex-girlfriend, Jess, and they dated again for, I think, 9 months before finally ending it for good. But throughout those 9 months, the show was relocated to Alan's place. And that's when we painted the wall green so we could use the living room as the green screen studio for No Talent Gaming. So Season 3 of Short Fire Otaku was filmed in the room that Dave moved into in Alan's house, which is a much smaller room than in the Season 2 or Season 1 rooms. So it was quite tough to do it in there. And the first round of No Talent Gaming games was filmed in the newly minted green screen studio. And we had a lot of problems actually doing this. We had no idea how to do proper lighting. We had no idea how to do proper ventilation, so the room was always hot. We had to tape up felt over the door, because there was a massive door frame with no door in it. So we basically took green felt, taped it up, and called it a studio. But that felt, it insulated the room, it prevented airflow, so it was always extremely hot whenever we played games. At the same time, at this point, Dave was working night shift, and I was still working my municipal job in a different city. So whenever Dave and I came together to record Pokemon Fire Red, basically I'd show up, we'd do like 10 to 15 episodes, and it would be from, midnight to 6 a.m. because I had to go on his night shift sleep schedule. And then whenever it was time to do the anime reviews, either Camera Lady or I would have to come to town and do them with him. And all the while, we were taking all of this footage, the game stuff, the anime stuff, whatever, and sending it off back to Camera Lady through the internet so that she could edit it up. I'd say about a third of the way through Season 3, I decided to go back to school too. And I moved into the same city as Camera Lady, and ended up living with her for, I think, almost 3 years. So she was finishing her bachelor's and she was starting her master's degree as I was going back to school. And the two of us would often travel back to see Dave to do the show. And it was at this time that I actually sort of learned how to edit myself, and we started doing more videos. It was not just, the anime reviews every once in a while and the game stuff once a week. Around the end of season 3, we had gotten to the point where we could post a video Monday through Friday, a new video each day. We had a number of video game series going on. I think we had at this time a Sonic, Muramasa, we had Charles Barkley. We had a bunch of different games that we wanted to play. And what we ended up doing was, like, on Monday we'd post like a part of Sonic. On Tuesday we'd post a part of Charles Barkley. On Wednesday we'd post a part of Muramasa or something like that. But basically, Cam had a new computer. I was able to edit. We were living together. We would travel to see Dave on a regular basis. We were able to do more with the channel than ever before. And it was a great feeling. And it was during this time, I think, that it became more than just a hobby to us. We became really passionate about where the channel was going. We got disheartened whenever a video that we thought was going to be really great just sort of flopped. We got happy when there were new subscribers and just things like that. It does sound kind of silly to put it into words, but we really love this thing. Season 4, which is the current season of Short Fat Otaku, began in April of 2014. What happened was that Alan, he got a job, and it was actually a really good paying job. So he had to go move back to our hometown and go move in back with his parents. His plan was that he'd work there for a year, save up money, live with mom and dad, and then go do something else. He's still there, so I don't know if he's still holding to that plan, but he was moving out. That's the point. And Dave needed a roommate. Moreover, the lower half of the house, because we live on the upper half of a house, the lower half of the house, the people there were finishing up school and they were taking off too. So I said to Dave, I'll move in with you. I'm done with school here for now. Camera lady had just finished up her master's degree and she said, okay, I'll move in the basement. And since April 2014, it has been the first time since all three of us have really been in the same place at the same time. And we realized, now that we're all here, we could really make this show a priority. We could really make this channel something worth watching. That's when No Talent Gaming became a twice-a-day thing. Dave and I have more time than ever to record together. Camera Lady has multiple computers here at the house that she edits on. We're able to just do more now that we're working together as a team. What also emboldened us, and this is actually back during Season 3 more than Season 4, but it was on the bridge. So I don't know where this is going to go in the video, but we did a series called Game Roulette, and we want to do more series of Game Roulette because it was very fun and very interesting. And it actually got us some awards over at the R Let's Play subreddit. Game Roulette is a series where basically we sit down and we play a game selected from a random list, and we just close our eyes and pick a game. And of the 12 videos that we made of that series, 3 of them won awards at that subreddit. That's when we kind of realized that not only were we just making stuff online and putting it out there and hoping it was okay, but that people liked us. That when people had a chance to actually see our stuff, more often than not, they thought it was good, they thought it was funny, they thought it was interesting. Something kept them around to watch it. And we realized that we needed exposure, that we needed to get the word out of our existence so that people could actually watch us, because no one knows, even now no one knows what SFO is, So when we all moved in together, we ramped up everything. We tried and failed to do more anime reviews for a reason I'll get into shortly. We tried and succeeded to do significantly more No Talent Gaming. We now do 2 videos a day, every day. We have recorded several seasons of Game Roulette. We haven't put them out yet, but we've recorded several rounds of it. We've made a lot of friends, some of them large, some of them small, and they're all really cool people. Basically, the channel, I'm trying to find a way to not sound corny, but there's really no way to do it. The channel has kind of enriched our lives. We've met people we wouldn't have otherwise have met. We've done things we wouldn't have otherwise have done. We've learned skills that we wouldn't have otherwise have even considered to be skills, This really has changed things. We went from 3 losers, frankly, who had no idea what to do with their lives, to 3 people who were kind of getting things on track again, I went back to school, maybe not because of the channel, but because the channel gave me focus and I could then use that focus elsewhere in my life. Camera Lady has gone from being someone who was, quite frankly, not very good at computers at all, to being probably the most talented editor I've ever met or ever seen work online. Like, I watched a video of Barry describing how he edits Game Grumps, and there are things in that video that Camera Lady knows and has shared with me that Barry doesn't know. Shortcuts and hints and tricks, you know? Things like that. Like, it was surprising. And even Dave, a lot of his life has changed because he's been doing this too. He's always been kind of a creative guy, but he's never really had the gumption to do anything with it, I guess. And the channel has actually, really more in the past 6 months than anything else, lit a fire under him that I've never really seen. I've been his friend since kindergarten. I've never seen it quite like this. And then Gamergate starts in August. At this point, we had kind of become savvy to the idea that if something big happens, and of course you're interested in it, you got to do a video on it relatively quickly. You know, this is kind of the business model of, you know, the Mundane Matts. And that's no offense to Mundane Matt, he's cool. But basically, something happens, you got to get something out. I know Angry Joe criticized people for doing this, but the truth of it is, you know, small channels like us, we have no other choice. Angry Joe has a built-in follower list of millions. He can post whatever the fuck he wants, and people are going to watch it. People are going to like him for it. Doesn't matter what he talks about. He's just Angry Joe now. People like us, the small channels, we have no choice but to follow the trends to get the same kind of reaction that Joe gets for anything. So Dave and I do a Let's Play of Depression Quest. While playing that piece of shit game, we talk about what's happened with Zoe Quinn. Camera Lady edits it and puts it up as soon as possible. It gets a lot of good reaction. It kind of introduces us to Gamergate. We include just a big dump of links in the description of that video. Stuff from 4chan that basically 4chan was afraid was going to get knocked offline. So we just said, you know what, we'll just put it all in the description, and so it's not going to go anywhere. You're not going to lose the links. They're going to be right there. And we sort of thought that would be the end of it for us. You know, we'd still obviously support the values of Gamergate, but we didn't think we'd do anything else on it. But Camera Lady sort of had different ideas. She joined the digging teams on 4chan. She went to the IRCs, and just, I think, more by random luck than anything else, she talked to Aaron, Zoe's ex, and Aaron really opened up with her about a lot of things. You know, she presented details. I don't even know what the details are, but she presented details of Zoe's past to Aaron. Aaron confirmed them, and Aaron said, well, I guess you must be pretty good at this, and then gave her some info in return. And that's what ultimately formed the basis of the first Indefensible video. And when we put that video out, it was basically the first time since we put out the Chobits anime review, way back at the start, way back in 2009, that we had any sort of significant audience. You know? That first season of SFO had an audience. Everything beyond that, we had good spikes, like the Bible Black videos were, in my opinion, hilarious, and we got the views to match that. People thought those were great. I think on our Blip TV page, we're sitting at 100,000 views on each Bible Black video. They are by far our biggest Blip TV moneymakers. But we haven't had a consistent audience since the first season of SFO, all the way up until we started doing the Indefensible videos. So, you know, Dave and I got really excited, and we're like, Cameron, you gotta do more of these. These are amazing. And so she's like, oh, yeah, okay. And she digs, and she digs, and she digs. And then she pulls out the second Indefensible video, which is the one regarding the IGF and Phil Fish. And that one actually got us in some trouble, mainly because of the wording choice of the video. You know, when I was voicing her script, I didn't say things like, basically, I didn't add disclaimers to it. I didn't say, like, this is a discussion of evidence we've discovered. It is not a direct accusation of anything criminal. Stuff like that. Basically, the stuff that you see in front of our Indefensibles now, because we didn't do that, it got us in legal trouble. And the video had to come down. And we had to basically take a step away from Indefensible. And truthfully, that hurt all of us. We understood that Gamergate was not only just a big thing, it was a big audience. And we had something to offer that audience, and we had our hands tied. And that is something that I know I personally regret. I wanted to keep making videos. I wanted to keep going. I would have voiced anything she had given me during that hiatus. And there's a number of reasons as to why we wanted to really keep going with Gamergate. There's the obvious selfish one. We like the attention. We like the ad revenue, the hits. We like the comments. We like the fact that it means our channel's growing and getting subscribers. And those are selfish reasons, but I don't think they're necessarily bad. Like, I don't know, what's wrong with wanting a video to get hits? You know, what's wrong with wanting a video to make a little bit of cash? You know, as long as you're not selling out, as long as you're not doing something against your own moral code just for the sake of money. I mean, as long as you're sticking to what you believe in, and people are listening to you, what's wrong with wanting that, you know? So there is that selfish component to why we wanted to stick with Gamergate no matter what. But it was more than that as well. We understood that we had something to offer Gamergate as a movement and as a community. Camera Lady styled the first Indefensible video loosely after Internet Aristocrats videos on Gamergate. She wanted to have the same kind of, you know, let's discuss things in an organic fashion. You know, I'll say something and it'll lead into a piece of evidence, and then I'll be like, oh, well, what about this? And it'll lead into another piece of evidence. You know, she kind of wanted that organic feel to the video, and I think we did capture that. However, and this is no offense to Internet Aristocrat, but we provided original research. When Camera Lady did a digging video, not just, you know, the review of Law & Order SVU, but an actual digging video where she went in and she pulled out new evidence of corruption, and she put that on display. Or other people had pulled out new evidence of corruption, and she worked with them, and she put that on display. Internet Aristocrat, for as much as Gamergate really loves him, he basically was a guy who summarized. And that's no offense to him, he did it really well, but there was very little original research in his videos, you know? He still did some, but I mean, I hate to say this because it sounds like I'm tooting our own horn over here, but I mean, I don't think you can really compare him pulling out a few Kotaku articles and us blowing open a completely new wing of Gamergate relating to the IGF. Like, it's a major difference in scale. And I guess another reason as to why we wanted to stick with it is because we wanted not just the Gamergate community to grow, but we wanted our community to grow with it and overlap with it, you know? We have a lot of projects, and we were hoping for some kind of bleed over. Not just for selfish reasons, but because we think those projects are genuinely worth paying attention to. When we came back to Gamergate in January, we did a few videos that, you know, talked about happenings that we missed or new events or whatever, but not really much digging initially. We did get back into digging, and we're still digging now, but we realized that even though we personally place a lot of value on our other shows, like No Talent Gaming, like the Sharp Fire Taco Anime Review, that there wasn't too much bleed over. There was some. And in fact, you know, we have recognized names from Gamergate who have bled over and now watch No Talent Gaming, and we like, hey, there's that guy. And like we sometimes even bring him up in a video if it's relevant. But there largely hasn't been that. So we've realized we are passionate about this channel, we are passionate about you as viewers, we are passionate about the content that we put out. I think this entire long spiel of our channel history and what we've done to try and get the channel off the ground for 5 years, I think that kind of proves in some sense that we are passionate about this. We also understand the reality of a lot of our viewers being Gamergate viewers. We're never going to stop doing that stuff because we love it. But it needs to exist side by side as Indefensible as a series. And because of that, we need to treat Indefensible as seriously as we treat those other projects. Which, in a sense, we haven't so far. We set a Patreon goal to put out Indefensible more regularly, and then we immediately did not even hit that goal. And part of it, yes, was because Camera Lady was digging, and she was digging and digging and digging and digging and not getting anything out of it, not getting anything usable. Part of it was because, frankly, she lost 3 weeks to depression after a breakup. Fine, it happens. But part of it was because we got so wrapped up in doing other videos that we put it off, and it's not something we should do. Like, I talked about Spoony earlier in this video. Well, we've seen what Spoony's become now. We knew him in a limited sense when he was good, and we know what he is now. We don't want to go down that same road. We don't want to be somebody who gets $1 billion on Patreon and just takes the money and runs and doesn't actually give you anything, you know? We set our Patreon specifically to donate to all of our shows, not just Indefensible, because we knew that even though people cared about Indefensible, our other shows were never going to go away, and that the money would pool together and fund all of them at the same time. And we would hope that through that, if people were interested in giving us money, they would also be interested in seeing the other shows that their money's funding. Like, a great way to explain this is, you like us for Gamergate, you watch us for Gamergate. You decide to give us money because you want to support us. Then you see the Patreon, and it says, this money goes towards all of our shows. So you say, well, I might as well go check out the other shows. I mean, let's see where my money's going, you know? You were hoping that that kind of thing would happen. So let's talk about the future then. The future of the channel, the future of Indefensible as a series, the future of our Patreon, the future of all this stuff. Indefensible will go on as long as Gamergate is relevant. You know, if we get to a point where Gamergate's sort of over and Indefensible's only giving us a couple hundred hits, we probably won't put out anymore. We still hold true to those values, but frankly, we have to make what gives us hits and what gives us money. It's just the reality of the situation. Moreover, and this is just me talking, this is not Dave's opinion or Cameron's opinion, this is just me, Dev. Moreover, I have found Indefensible to be somewhat limiting in what I want to talk about. I'm an admirer of Sargon of Akkad, and he does Gamergate videos. He also does other, social justice-y videos. He also does videos on feminism, videos on stupid shit happening on the internet. I'm not interested in just blatantly copying Sargon, but I would like to do something like what he does, which is comment on certain internet events that are big and relevant. I don't want to just blatantly copy Sargon, and additionally, I don't want to put out videos a mile a minute like Mundane Matt does, but I would like to find some nice middle ground where I can have a space to just discuss relevant internet happenings. And Indefensible doesn't really offer that. Like, I have, honestly, a lot to say with what's going on over at Reddit right now, but it's not related to Gamergate, and so it wouldn't fit in an Indefensible. If this kind of series would interest you, I mean, let us know in the comments, because I would love to start something up. Because I do have quite a bit to say about a lot of these events. I mean, here, if you're one of the people who've watched our Rogue Legacy Let's Play, you'll know that the middle third of that Let's Play is basically dominated by Dave and I grinding gold and debating about, the day's issues. And I kind of like doing something like that. Maybe not with Rogue Legacy in the background all the time, but I'd like to just sit down and discuss what's going on. And I really hope that there's an audience for it. I really hope that, our Gamergate audience could actually watch that as well. Because, so far, Gamergate has largely stuck to the Indefensible series. And, I don't fault anybody for that. I'm not blaming anybody for that. I'm not, taking it out on my fans that you won't watch our other videos. It's kind of ridiculous to have that mentality. I know a lot of people on the internet have that mentality, and I think it's stupid, People will watch what they want to watch. You can suggest it. You can hope that they do. You can have faith that you've made a good enough product that they'll like it and spread it around. But at the end of the day, you can't be mad at the people who are watching your stuff. You can't bite the hand that feeds you, This is, I think, the hard lesson that Spoony's learning right now. So we do plan to make more Gamergate videos. We do plan to make them more often. But during the times that there is no digging to be done, during the times that, the wells have kind of run dry for a little while in terms of dredging up corruption, I would like to supplement Indefensible with a video series where I talk about these happenings, these internet happenings, these big deals. And alternatively, what Camera Lady has suggested, that Indefensible be supplemented with a series during the slow digging times, where we basically just take on a single entity within Gamergate and give you a comprehensive, organized, detailed rundown on them. She's already written one script for this kind of thing. I don't know when she wants me to do it, but it's about Kotaku. And basically the script is everything a Gamergater would want to know about Kotaku in an organized fashion. It's sort of like if you went to the Gamergate wiki and clicked on Kotaku, and you got like a summarized version of everything they've done, every bullet point for ethics, every bullet point for Gamergate, every bullet point for corruption, every bullet point for social justice, whatever. That kind of thing in video form. Basically, these videos would be a resource, so if someone asked you, man, what's wrong with Kotaku? You could point to this video and be like, here it is. Here's what's wrong with Kotaku. Here's the evidence laid out in the video. Here's it being described. So we do have these ideas to supplement Gamergate with similar relevant content during the times when we just can't dig stuff up. And I'm really hoping that'll be an acceptable alternative to you guys, because we do want to put out Gamergate relevant stuff and indefensible videos regularly, but sometimes we just can't make it. Sometimes there just isn't the info to put out there. And doubly so because it's a Patreon goal. So we're hoping that this is a good solution to you guys. I mean, here's the thing. If it is a good solution to you guys, vote with your wallet and with your clicks. And if you don't think it is, vote with your wallet and with your clicks. If we put these videos out and no one watches them, we got your answer. At the same time, like I said in the TLDR, we want to take that atmosphere of ethics that has kind of surrounded our name, and we want to take the tiny burgeoning community that's springing up around our channel and change that into, I guess, what we would call a reputable outlet, basically. I mean, we're not journalists. I don't think we'll ever be journalists. I don't think you could ever compare us to a journalist. But what we would ultimately like to see happen is No Talent Gaming change into a type of show where it's popular enough and it is financially sustainable enough that we could take the revenue from the show or take the Patreon money or whatever, go out, pick up the new releases, pick up the fan requests, pick up basically whatever it is you guys want to see, and then do a one-off on them or a short video series on them, and then give you our honest assessment. Basically, we want to occupy this spot in the consciousness of not only our fans, but also, people in Gamergate. I didn't call you Gamergaters this time. Ha! I read comments. We want to occupy this spot where we're not only known for ethics, but valued for it. We have this reputation where you can be like, you know what? I know he's going to tell me the truth. I know if I go up to SFO and I say to those guys, what do you think of the new Tomb Raider game? They're going to tell me exactly what we think of the new Tomb Raider game. They're not going to be paid off because we will never, ever accept any kind of payment to do like a special show or anything like that. Like, no, even if we get big, I can promise you right now, if someone comes to us and gives us money or gives us an early access key and tells us you can do videos on this before anybody else, but you gotta say good things about it, you gotta hide glitches, we will never, ever take that deal. No way. I don't want to ever be compromised, When we're playing games and you guys are watching us, we want you to know that we're telling the truth. It's kind of, honestly, a double-edged sword in a way, in which it is a very selfish thing to want, because attaining this goal would involve our channel just massively skyrocketing. And there is kind of the personal pride in being able to say that we are trusted by the community. But it goes beyond selfishness, because I honestly think that Gamergate needs someone like that in their corner. I mean, we sort of have Total Biscuit, in a sense. I mean, he certainly will always tell you what he thinks about a game. I don't think he's the kind of guy to ever actually take a payout. But at the same time, he's not explicitly a person in Gamergate. We kind of like to claim him as our own because he holds similar viewpoints regarding ethics as we do, and he has a distaste for censorship, and he has a distaste for all this sort of stuff, the same distaste that we have. But, like, do you see him wearing the Gamergate shirt? No. Will you ever see that? No. He's never going to actually carry that banner, you know? JonTron was sort of the same way. The few little bits of time that JonTron dabbled in Gamergate, he agreed with us, but didn't join us. In a sense, this feels more like a politician trying to get elected, but I want our channel to represent you and your interests at some of the larger tables. Because there really is no one who is explicitly Gamergate at those larger tables. I definitely think we have the ethics for it. I think we have the drive and the passion to get it done. All it really takes is, honestly, your support. You know, you're watching the videos, Gamergate stuff and others. You are passing it around if you think it's relevant. If you can afford to give money and you are interested in giving money, you know, please do so. Don't ever feel pressured to do so. Like, we will never shame someone for not giving or not giving enough. That's just absurd to the point of ridiculousness. But we always appreciate it when you do. I'm trying to strike the right balance between humble and ambitious, and I don't know if I'm coming off insane or coherent or anything, but I hope that you've gotten the picture. We do have a very clear vision of the future regarding the Short Fat Otaku channel. Patreon really showed us that we could conceivably make enough money on this. I mean, right now we're getting $130 a month, which is peanuts compared to our real jobs in that. But that's $130 that people have taken out of their own paychecks from their own lives and given to us because they like our content. That is astounding, you know? That is just incredible to think about. And we want to provide more of that. And hopefully, as we provide more of the content that you like, you will also come to enjoy the content that you didn't come here for initially. That's our ultimate hope. Because that's the only way that growth can really happen here. And that's the only way that we can really make those ambitions become reality. The ambition to both grow ourselves and also represent you guys, which is something that we want to do just as much as grow. In terms of the priority list of what we want to do with SFO, those are equal. Our own personal growth and our ability to represent your interests. Anyway, that's a very long video, it looks like. I'm looking over at Audacity and I'm at 1 hour and 36 minutes. I'm sure when it's cut down it'll be a lot less. But still, this is going to be a long one. If you listen to everything, you know, thanks for sticking through it all. I hope my vision of the future isn't arrogant or anything, or it isn't greedy. But at the same time, I do definitely want it really bad. So if you listen to this whole thing, if you listen to this giant pitch of mine, and you're actually interested in us and what we do, you know, feel free to go and check out all the videos. There's tons. Here, I'll open up the YouTube right now and just let you know. There is 1,076 videos on our channel, spanning back to August of 2009. So, if you're interested, go and check them out. You know, if you think that they're worth passing around to your friends or on social media, then please do so. Don't feel obligated to give to Patreon or to PayPal or to whatever, but if you have the money and you want to do it, go ahead. As for the immediate future, the next Gamergate video is going to come in a week. It might be on the weekend, so the 11th or 12th, possibly on the 13th, which gives us a full week from today, which is Monday. So make sure you come back and check that out, alright guys? It was great talking to you. Leave your comments below if you want to comment on anything that I've said, any of the millions of topics that I've covered. And I'll see you later.